Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and we got another very special first class guest in the house today. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody that we are live at Bravery Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. Shout out to Mar Behind the Glass. And let's also take a second to talk about our sponsors at New York Posse. New York Posse is a brand that strives to push creative culture forward. Check out all of their outstanding apparel at NewYorkPosse.com and follow them on social media. You can also purchase New York Posse apparel at Levitate in the American Dream Mall, as well as the Palisades Mall, Butterfly in Yonkers, and many other locations throughout the tri-state area. So, also want to give a big shout out to Crazy Legs of the Rocksteady crew, Porter Rocksteady crew, who came in through the last episode. Really appreciate that. And it could have been done without this lovely, lovely first class guest that came here today. I've been wanting to have this person on my show for quite some time. The beautiful, the lovely, talented Lorri Love. What is going on, Lorri Love?
What up, Jason?
What's going on?
You did amazing.
Thank you.
Jason really knows his stuff. Jason is like, he just always knows more than you would even imagine, I would feel sometimes. How do you get so much information? Like, have you just always been into research and?
You know, that's a great question. I just feel like it's a couple of things. One, I'm just a naturally inquisitive person. I always want to know almost anything and everything about everything and everything. I come from a radio background where I feel like when people like Larry King or Howard Stern or any of these big names that do like these A-list celebrity interviews, that they need to know their shit. They need to know how to do their stuff. And I guess I kind of looked to them as inspiration, and I kind of followed that mindset, and I'm glad that I took that approach, because it seems like everybody and their mother has a podcast now, and I feel like I've been able to stand out more than most because of that mindset.
That's awesome. You definitely stand out. And I think having a podcast is the first step, right? Mm-hmm. But having something to say and having your own opinion where it's valid, right? Because anybody can have an opinion, but when you say something that moves either the culture forward, moves humanity forward in a positive way, where you're encouraging and you're also knowing what you're talking about, right. I think that's what will set your podcast apart. And that's why I'm honored to be here, because I feel like you take this seriously. And as a fellow ex-podcaster myself, I could really...
I wouldn't say ex. I think you're a hiatus right now.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I could appreciate what you do and the way that you do it. And you know, what I think about it too is like, we use the word podcast because that's what it's called. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like, this is your show. Like, this is your moment to exude your talent, to show your brilliance, your skills, your ability to communicate with people from all different walks of life. Mm-hmm. And like, I think that because podcasting is so like, it's just done by so many people, sometimes it takes away from all the effort, right? You're investing in yourself. You're dedicating time, right? And so like giving you your flowers on your own show, because I see the work that you're putting in, right? And that's a part of like who I am, is like, that's how I got my name, Lorri Love, because I genuinely like to remind people like that the work that you're doing is seen. It's not just about who you have on your show. It's about the fact that you believed in yourself enough to keep going and keep going and keep going through all the challenges that life throws at us, right? Because there was something that's driving you, and it's a self-initiative. It's within you that's pushing you to do it, right? So props to you, Jason.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lorri Love Show, by the way. It's funny because a lot of people have always complimented me on the intros when I introduce them to the show and everything, but I don't think there's anybody that has been able to contextualize how I feel about the show, and I appreciate everything that you said. I'm actually trying my best not to get emotional right now, because I know it comes from the heart, and I know you're a genuine person. So I just want to let you know that, as the kids say, I receive it. I receive your words and your respect and so on and so forth, and I really appreciate that. You just made my night. I love it. I don't think we have to say anything else. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. All right, no, but at the end of the day, we're here for you. I'm very honored to have you here on the show. Like I said, I've been a fan of yours, from your podcast to your poetry to your music to everything that you've been doing. I love everything that you've been going through, and just doing it with grace and with ease and the passion. That's the most important thing. But let's start off from the very, very beginning. So I want to know about the beginning of Lorri Love. Like, where were you born and raised?
So I was born and raised in Paterson, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. P-Town.
Yes, I went to school. I went to St. Anthony's Catholic School until fourth grade, also located in Paterson. And then I went to middle school, West Paterson Memorial, or what they call Woodland Park now. And then I went to high school in Little Falls. But I always, for the most part, lived with my grandparents, who lived right on 21st Ave in Paterson.
That's my old stomping grounds.
Yeah, so, you know, the nitty gritty. I used to be on 21st Ave and Martin Street. You know, I had an older brother who was like 5 years older than me that I just like idolized as a kid. I looked up to him. I wanted to be just like him. It was like the closest thing to me. I always felt like I didn't need friends. I had my brother. I still tell him that to this day. And I'm thankful that he let me in, being so much older, and he taught me so much at a young age, because it helped me see things that maybe I wouldn't have seen if I didn't have an older sibling. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where I'm from, Paterson, New Jersey.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's your brother that actually kind of got you into the whole hip hop culture. Like, wasn't he doing music at one point?
For sure.
And he's the one that introduced you to everything that you know now, and now
For
you're
sure.
Now you're in it. You're all in it.
150%. My brother was into everything. Like when I was little, when I was like 8 years old, you know, we would be listening to music. He would be listening to music because he controlled the TV. He controlled the radio. You know, I was still little. And we would do dance routines together. It went from like mimicking music video routines to putting together our own routines to then, like I've shared before, like we would do breakdancing. So once I was
breaking.
Yeah, we would break. Like he would show me how to do like spins and put my legs up and like all these moves that I can't quote you now.
Were you able to do a windmill like Crazy Legs?
I was never able to do a windmill. There were like very beginner moves I could do.
Gotcha.
And then him and his friends were like good at it. They went to Clifton High and they'd throw parties and invite their friends, and then at a certain time we'd all go and do our dance, and he'd let me participate. Like I'd go do my little move and then everybody else would go like really take over the show. But he made me feel included in things where I was safe, and I knew that it was like pure-hearted and it was fun. And then we used to start sharing, like he started rapping. My cousins were rapping. We would write poetry, and we would just be break night, just reading each other what we wrote during the day when we weren't with each other, and going back and forth, and it was really dope. Like I remember he used to always play the Michael Jackson music videos when they would come on TV, and it was like Thriller, and I'd be like, that's so scary. And he's like, it's not scary, like you know. But you know, I was really, really into. I used to sit in front of the radio and record, like when I'd hear the locks come on, and when I'd hear, I'd have a little tape player, and I'd go back as time would change and my new favorite song would be different. I'd go back and I'd record over different songs that were my least favorite. And sometimes I'd be singing, I'm a survivor, I'm gonna make it, for hours. And he'd be like, shut up. Like, how many times are you gonna sing I'm a survivor? And little did I know, like, how much of a survivor I would be, you know?
Look
like,
at that. you know, that kind of takes me back, because there was a time when I was really into rap music, and my mom, I'll never forget this. I was listening to a song called "The Corruptor's Execution." It was by UGK and E40, and there's a line in there where Bun B, he goes, "Now we get to smash and dash and bash your brains all over the dashboard." My mom heard that, she was horrified. So immediately she looked at the CD case and she looked, parental advisory, explicit content. Are you kidding me? So from then on, she forbade me to stop listening to hip hop music if they had explicit content in it. So at that point, since I wasn't able to really purchase an album without her actually watching what I'm buying, the only way that I could really get my hip hop fix was watching BET or MTV music videos, and I record them on VHSs, and that's how I got them. And I did the same thing that you did with the radio. Like the new joint would come out, or if I had like DJ K Slay or DJ Absolute or any of the guys from back in the day from Hot 97, I would just record their hourly shows, and that's how I got my hip hop fix, because my mom didn't allow me to listen to anything that had explicit content.
You were like
on it.
listening to hip hop hidden in your room, like
Exactly,
hiding tapes from mom.
And I knew what they were really saying, even though I couldn't say
Right.
it.
We come from the times where you would get a magazine that had the CDs on it, and you would pick the
Yes.
number, and then you'd ask your parents to write a check and mail that check to the CD company so that they could mail you your CDs in the mail.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Did you ever, speaking of those hip hop publications, was there ever a time when you were dreaming in your little Lorri Love lore when you were a kid, like you would be, I don't know, maybe reading the source, and then after, do you imagine yourself being the unsigned hype one day?
I'm gonna tell you the God's honest truth.
Yes.
When I was in second grade, the crossing guard that she lived downstairs from me, the news came to like interview her and talk about how she was like very old. I don't remember how old she was and how like much of a gem she was to the community. And then I loved that lady. She used to get us cookies and snacks, and she would always invite me over her house. And they asked me to be on the news to talk about her, right? So I go on there and I'm like, yeah, I love Mary. And whatever I said after that, my family was hyping it up. Mercy, because my family calls me Mercy. Mercy's on the TV. Mercy's on the TV. Did you see her? They're all calling each other. Ever since then, I was like, I'm gonna be a star one day. I want to be a famous. First, it was I want to be a famous actress. I want to be a famous news reporter. Then it was I want to be a famous singer. Literally, like because I used to be in choir and sing.
Okay.
Then it was I want to be like a famous rapper. Then it was, I'm gonna have my own like talk show on TV one day. So I always did dream of being like in the limelight and something in entertainment, something where I could express my creativity and bring joy to people with my presence. That was always something that I really, really wanted. And it's good you bring it up because there were times that I felt depressed because I didn't have the tools to do that.
Right.
I didn't have the tools to go to acting school or, get signed to Epic Records or, I didn't have that. My family was first generation hardworking. My grandfather was like, you're crazy. You need to go to school for radiology. Like, what are you talking about? Graphic design, art, singing, dancing, like, that's just because you're a kid. Like, don't think you're going to do that as an adult,
Right.
And I had an identity crisis for sure. Like, I didn't know who I wanted to be and what was right and if something was wrong with me because I had such big dreams. And I had to work that out. I had to learn that it doesn't matter what other people say. It matters what I believe I'm capable of doing. And I'm grateful I've been able to prove to myself that I can do amazing things with limited resources. I've learned how to be resourceful. I've learned how to just take that first step, right? And just keep going. It's not about being world famous. It's about loving what you do.
Yes.
And loving how you do it and enjoying it. Whether one person sees it, whether only you see it, like I used to spend hours in my room just writing stuff and reading it, painting stuff and looking at it and appreciating that I could create that and that I didn't need somebody there cheering me on to know like, okay, what comes from me is beautiful. Because you're not always going to have somebody support you. Sometimes you're going to have haters. Sometimes you could be doing something so amazing and your immediate surroundings could be like, that's terrible, or who do you think you are? Because they hate the fact that you believe in yourself, right? Or that you have a gift that maybe they wish they would have exuded or believed in themselves or whatever. So, my childhood was a very dark place for me, but it was the foundation to who I am today. It gave me the understanding of, watch what you say to people. When I was little, my cousin used to bully me. He didn't know how that affected me, but it made me feel terrible, right? And so you could go to work and someone could say like, oh, you look like shit today. But you don't know if that person struggles with their self-esteem, right? So that person might be like, oh, I was just kidding. But you don't know if that person is going to go home and feel so ugly that they don't want to go outside for a week or two, And so all the terrible things I went through are reminders to me of things that people need to hear. Like, I know what I didn't hear as a child, and I know that all of us, we're adults now, but there's a part of us that needs that encouragement when we're doing something good. Whether we admit it or not, it feels better, right? When you can do something you love and share it with somebody else. And I think that's what drives me the most, is like, it doesn't matter that I go through challenges. It matters that I pick myself up and keep that first generation Latino hardworking attitude, but working towards something that's meaningful to me. You know, and yes, I have a 9 to 5, but I also work on me outside of that. So when I'm 6 feet under, I can't feel like, oh, my time passed and all I did was work. No, I did things I enjoyed. And that's why I really celebrate other people who do things they enjoy too, because it means you're really living your life, your way, you know, not somebody else's way.
Yeah, no, straight up facts. And I could really resonate with everything that you said, because even from the beginning, from what you said, where you had all these aspirations that you wanted to do some kind of creativity, so on and so forth. That was me as well. But I was, and I've said this before on my show, but I'll reiterate it again, where I felt like I didn't have the support, or that really needed me to take me to where I wanted to go. I didn't have the resources. And then there was a time where I felt like, well, maybe nothing is going to happen that I wanted to. Maybe I'm not destined to do the things that I thought I was going to do. And it led me to depression and almost to a suicide attempt and so on and so forth. And then luckily I got out of that, and now I'm doing this and I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm in a much better headspace and a place than I am now. And I'm just really thankful that I really didn't go through what I went through back in 2018, where I could have easily ended it all and not have, ascended to the levels that I have right now. So, and when I talk about these things, it's not necessarily about just giving myself a pat on the back and flowers and so on and so forth, but I also try to use it as an example that if anybody's listening or watching, that if I can do it, then so can they. I'm not trying to do this for ego boost. I'm not trying to, be like, oh, look at me, and I want all this attention, and look what I went through, and look how I came out and rose up from the ashes and so on and so forth. Maybe there's a little bit of hint of that, but mainly I come from a point where, like, if anybody's out there that's actually suffering a lot worse than I am, or they feel stuck, or they don't know what to do, or whatever the case may be, just take a look at me. I'm not this great podcaster. I'm not anything that's like uniquely special about me. I'm just a normal person. I'm a regular human being. So if somebody like me can do it, then anybody else can. And that's the kind of example that I'm trying to lead with this platform. And I didn't even think that was something that I was going to eventually do. I just started doing this because I had a love for radio, and I just wanted to get in front of the mic.
You made a really good point, which is, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? So being consistent, and that's something that I learned, and I'm so grateful that I went to Puerto Rock Steady Music Festival when I was like 22 or 23.
That was the game changer for
and
you.
that is why you guys will see that I'm such a co-signer for Crazy Legs, right? Because that whole event inspired me. I didn't have a role model in the entertainment industry that I could say, like, I literally had a conversation with this person, which makes me feel like if they can do it, I can do it. I didn't have it until I went there, right? And shout out to Voodoo Ray, rest in peace, Voodoo Ray, because he was really the glue. Like, he was promoting that event, and he told me, you need to come to this, Lorri. I'm like, I'm too young. I don't know these people. I'm going to introduce you to them. You need to come. He was my poetry mentor. He was an amazing MC, host, choreographer. He danced for Janet Jackson, Mariah Carey, Tony Touch's right-hand man, and he saw something in me at a young age. And at that time, I was in a really toxic relationship, and the person I was with was always just kind of making me feel like if I wasn't as good as I thought I was, and like just saying really bad things that insecure men say to women behind closed doors, right? Like, oh, you just want attention, or oh, you're a whore. Why? Because people recognize that I write good poetry, that I write good rap music, because people actually genuinely like talking to me because I'm intelligent. And that person hated to see that, right? And it took courage for me to fly to Puerto Rico, not knowing anyone, and meet these people who recognize my talent and encouraged me, right? But the point is that you made a good point where, like, you can literally feel suicidal for a whole year and fight through those feelings knowing that better things are coming. You can be homeless, you can lose your job, you can lose your spouse, lose all your friends. Like, I went through so many things where I was just like, when do I get a break, you know? And the truth is that you don't always really get breaks. You just become stronger because you stop asking why me, and you start going, well, how can I be stronger than this? How can I give myself time to heal, cry, let it all out, let it affect me, accept it, and admit to people I'm hurting right now, I'm struggling right now, and not feel shame for struggling. We're taught to feel shame when we struggle because the generation before us, they weren't allowed to say I'm struggling. They had to get up and go, you know? And so we were shamed for that. And those feelings of shame will keep you trapped. They'll make you not want to hang out. Oh, my outfit isn't like the flyest outfit, I'm not gonna go out. No, your friends are gonna be happy to see you no matter what you're wearing. Like, oh, I'm not doing well financially, I'm not gonna answer anybody's text messages. No, because people that love you are gonna put you on to opportunities. They're gonna make you think of things that you can possibly make money from, right? So thinking that you have to always have the answers will always make you feel depressed. And the truth is, we don't get out of depression by ourselves. Once we start speaking up, that's when we start healing. It doesn't mean that we're forever healed, right? It's just a matter of take the things that really, really break you and make you feel terrible and use them as your hidden power of like, I can never let myself be that down again. I'll never let a toxic man keep me down. And I'm grateful because that allowed me to weed out people I didn't need around me and have real encouragement, right? So you're seeing like 10 years ago, this girl that was insecure, lacked self-confidence, and had gifts but was afraid, to now 10 years later being recognized and having opportunities, right? So I didn't graduate college. I dropped out of college.
Me too.
And I wasn't paying for college cash for broadcast journalism. You know, I had a friend that was
doing communications.
Yeah, I had a friend who owned a newspaper, tap into and was like, Lorri, I think you're great. Why don't you work for us? You know, then later on, now I'm at Hinchcliffe Stadium about to do a youth poetry event that I thought of, I curated, I came up with the whole idea. All I had to do was be in the right place at the right time. Why? Because I decided I'm going to support people that are doing good things. I'm only going to make myself available to positive role models and positive people. You're not going to see me. No offense to people that go to the clubs, you know, like no offense, but you're not going to see me on a Saturday night at the club drinking my liver away, because I would rather use a Saturday night to do research or to work on my craft or to connect with my family.
Something productive. Something
that gives me life, that energizes me, so that when these opportunities come up, I'm ready to grab them. Because if I were to be here and there and everywhere, I wouldn't have the energy to go to work, run Blue Muses, my business, tend to my family, because I put my family first. I make sure that my family knows I'm there for them and that I love them and that I encourage them. And I also make sure that my partner, like shout out to you, that my partner knows that I'm there for him and I love him. And I don't let my emotions get to me. I make sure that I strategically don't spread myself too thin.
Right.
Because when opportunity comes, you need to be ready to grab it. Right? And so if you spread yourself too thin, you won't have the energy and you won't show up the way you're meant to show up to that opportunity. But I had to learn that. It took time. You know, so you could be struggling right now, but if you start paying attention to what you're focusing on and you rearrange that, you'll realize that the keys are within you. What you pay attention to, what you feed your energy to, and the way that you talk to yourself. I can get through this. I will get through this. I'm bigger than this. This moment doesn't define me. I define me. And writing down what you define yourself as and remembering that, right? So I'm big on principles and values. Know what your principles are. What's the difference between principles and values? Values are the things that you find important, right? But principles are the things that define your character and how you make decisions. If you don't know what your values are and what your principles are, you're always going to be swayed into different situations that may not reflect the best of who you are. You might want to have more friends. So you might start hanging out with people that don't have the same values of you. But because you don't want to be alone, you keep hanging out with these people. Now you look like you're this careless person who says mean things about other people because those people are like that, right? So it's important to know who you are so that you can put yourself in the room and in spaces with people who really reflect the caliber of who you are, right? Because like they say, my grandfather used to say this all the time, dime con quién tú andas y yo te digo quién tú eres. And I used to hate when he said that. It means tell me who you hang out with and I'll tell you who you are. Mm-hmm. And while we say everybody can have different opinions, but it's true, right? So when I was 18 and I had to worry about paying rent and I had to, do things that I wouldn't do today, but my friends were like, I know how you can make money. I got you. My cousins were like, I got you. I was 12, 13, 14, like bagging drugs up. Did I need to be exposed to that? No, absolutely not, right? But it was where you are and the influence that you get at that age. If you're too young, you're not going to understand the decisions you're making. As you get older, you have to take responsibility and say, this doesn't have to be my story. I can change. I can go to college. I used to be on Park Avenue Straight Street, and I was little sis. Nobody messed with Lorri the Don. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't imagine that today. I had friends that used to be like, Lorri, why are you on the block? Because I have to pay rent. So I'm going to sell drugs. Can you imagine me doing that? You know what I mean? And it's because when you don't know how valuable you are, you'll do anything to just feel like you're doing enough to get by until you start believing in yourself. One day I had an epiphany. I lost friends, people who died. I saw people get locked up, people that I looked up to going to jail, doing years. I said, I don't have to do this. I'm leaving it all behind. Some people thought I was fake. Some people respected it. And they're like, Lorri, I believe in you. Whatever you do, I support you. I have old heads till today. Like, yo, little sis, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of where you came from. A lot of people don't know where I came from, right? But there are people who do. And I think it's important that you don't let where you come from define you, that you remember that where you come from reminds you of how strong you had to be, but you don't have to be that strong your whole life. You can live an easier life. You just have to break out of your routines that are toxic. Yeah. Separate yourself. Yeah.
Now I wanted to go back to something you were mentioning earlier, where you've had all these great opportunities. People see the talent in you. They see the aura in you. They see something in you that needs to be brought out and it can't be held within. There's something special that people see in you. You just radiate it. But you're also human. So what about those moments where you feel like all of these opportunities could come to you and everybody's trying to present you with what you can do with your life and this and that, but there's that self-doubt that you have because of you growing up with that self-doubt and that imposter syndrome, and then you're human, it comes out, and how do you basically gamble that or juggle that, I should say?
Well, I would say I had therapy a couple years ago, and it wasn't your traditional therapy.
Okay.
It was hypnotherapy. And yeah, so during those sessions, I was brutally honest about my insecurities, about my fears, about the way I saw myself and felt about myself, and the way that I perceived my story. There's a story that we all tell ourselves. Mm-hmm. I'm this, I'm that. My parents didn't love me. My parents thought I wasn't good enough. No one ever believed in me. Am I really as amazing as people say I am? Are they just being nice to me?
Right.
All those things, right? And so I had to undo that programming. I had to find the root cause. Why did I feel insecure in my relationships? Why did I feel that I wasn't good enough to succeed in life? Why did I doubt or actually not acknowledge all the hurdles that I overcame and not give myself credit? Because there was a voice that was, and doesn't apply only to me, this applies to everyone. There's an inner child in all of us. There's a voice that was louder than ours, that at one point we either pushed it out and ignored it, or we let it become the way we view ourselves. And for those who let the way that adults and older people speak to them become the way they view themselves, they struggle. And that was me. I struggled because I used to let what people say to me hurt me so bad, until I had to learn that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks of me. It matters what I think of me. And if I don't like what I think about me, thank God I have another day to change that. If there's things I've done in the past that I'm not proud of, I still have tomorrow to do better.
Yeah.
And it's okay, because we were all born flawed. There's no perfect human being. So to hold yourself to a standard of like, I can't have flaws is the biggest mistake anyone can make, because you'll never feel good enough.
Right. And you know what's also tricky, and it's a real thing, and that's sometimes when you realize it, it's a real game changer. So I'm going to give you an example. So there's a movie out that came out years ago called Swingers. It's not what you think it is, you know, but it's a comedy. It's a guy film. And at the surface, it's like a guy movie where like it's all about, you know, guys chasing chicks in Vegas and so on and so forth. But there's a deeper meaning into it, because the main character is going through heartbreak and he's living in a different city that he's not used to. So that was me at one point. It was kind of relatable. So somewhere there's a scene in the movie where he's talking to his friend who knows what he's going through. And I won't get into the whole thing about what his character is going through, but the part that resonated with me the most is he asked his friend, how did he get over whatever he was going through? And he was like, I don't know. Sometimes it still hurts because, you know, one day you wake up and it hurts less and less, and then one day it doesn't hurt at all. But you sometimes live with it for so long that sometimes even when you're not hurting anymore, you kind of miss the pain because you live with it for so long. And when I heard that, I felt like, holy shit, maybe that's what I'm going through, because maybe I'm going through a lot of great things right now, but I've been hurt for so long that I got used to it. And now that I don't have it anymore, I kind of falling back to it, whether subconsciously or not, back to that pain that I got so used to for so long.
Yes, you hit it on the head. So our subconscious mind controls 98% of what we do.
Right.
What we think, what we feel, what we say. So if you're not aware of your subconscious mind and the way that it's programmed, you'll literally spend your whole life being ruled by, I like to call it like a clone. Like it's not you. Right. It's ideas and beliefs that were put in your mind that you think are yours because you've heard them enough, right? So if you grew up consistently stressed in a household where your parents are always stressed, or whoever's raising you is always stressed, you learn stress. You learn that the way to survive is stress. You don't learn that the way to survive is to relax and take a deep breath, and you know the challenges are going to come, and to smile after a stressful day at work. You don't learn that. You learn, I'm going to get home, be cranky, be mad. And then when you move and you're living on your own as an adult and there's no one there to ruin your day, it feels strange, right? You're looking for danger. You're looking for where is the stress? Because the stress was the motivator for me as a kid. So your subconscious mind can overpower you, but like you said, you were aware of that, right? So that was what allowed you to change that. And I think that's how I got into meditation. I used to always think that's so cheesy. When I was like deep in my depression, I didn't want to hear about meditation.
Right. There's that, and also the environments that we come from. Because you come from Patterson, where somebody would even think that something like yoga is quote unquote gay.
Right. And so all these stigmas that we've broken as a generation. Like, I'll tell you the truth. When I was in high school and the years after high school, I used to write about mental health on Facebook. Nobody was talking about mental health. Nobody was talking about how they felt. Nobody was talking about their family problems out loud. I was. Yeah. I wasn't afraid to be that person to say, like, I'm a human, and I know you guys think I'm funny. I know you think I'm fun. I know I'm always the life of the party, but I struggle. And that helps me to feel like seen and known for who I really am, because I don't have to hide my struggles to be loved. And I think that I needed to learn that, is that I don't have to be this hyper independent woman that says I don't need no man. I don't have to be this hyper independent woman that says I don't need my family, or that can't forgive people. I had to learn to be strong enough to look at people who have hurt me, forgive them, and not feel upset towards them, because I have to remember I've made mistakes too. And it's that little baby in me that wants to be mad at people. There's a childhood wound that triggers you. It's not your adulthood wound. It's a wound of abandonment. It's a wound of failure. It's not being encouraged properly. So when I feel any kind of self-doubt, I remind myself that it is a lie, that I can show up, I can make a mistake, and I can still be great all in the same breath. I can not be prepared and somehow still prepare myself. And I also have to know when to say no. If I don't feel good about an event, if I don't feel good about a commitment, I'm not going to do it. If I have this strong gut feeling where my stomach is hurting, I'm not going to go. And that's okay.
Right.
The opportunities that are for you will not miss you. They won't.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll kick yourself and you'll say, oh, I could have been so much more ahead in life if I would have done things like this or done things like that. All right, cool. What if you were?
Sounds like the 20-ish-year-old
me. What if you
yeah.
were, but you weren't prepared and you didn't have the wisdom and you didn't have the knowledge and you screwed those opportunities up earlier? You would have still had to work on you.
Right.
Because once you work on you, you succeed in whatever you do. You can't fail once you've done the inner work. You can only learn.
Do you realize how many times I failed at certain things that I thought I wanted to do, only to realize that either I had to realize that they were not for me, or I'm just going about it the wrong way. Because I'll tell you right now, I mean, I've been doing this podcast for quite some time, but I wouldn't say that I felt like I knew everything right away. You know, I had to learn. I had to naturally grow. And I prefer the way that it happened, because I think what stopped me from doing it right away when I wanted to do it initially, which is maybe a year prior than when I actually started doing it, was because I felt like everything needed to fall into place. All the pieces needed to fit before I can actually start and hit it with the ground running.
Perfectionism.
Yeah, exactly.
Fear of failure.
And I'm glad that it didn't happen that way, because I feel like I would have lost my passion. I would have lost whatever desire I wanted to do to get into this. I had to start from the ground, and then afterwards keep on building myself up to where I am now. And I'm only looking forward to seeing what I'm going to do in the future. So I'm so glad that the approach happened where I just did, you know what? Everything's not falling into place. It's not perfect. Fuck it. If I don't do it now, it's not going to happen. I had to put that foot forward in order for me to get to it. And now here we are.
Yeah. And it's knowing that you don't have to rush yourself.
Right.
It's like,
especially when everybody else starts to rush you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, when are you going to do that thing? When are you going to do that thing? When are you going to do the thing you said you were going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Spectators.
Yeah.
What did I say the other day? Pocket watchers, spectators. Like, they're just, you have to know that you don't have to explain yourself to people. And learning to say less sometimes when you're around those kinds of people. I struggled in my mid to late 20s with, when are you going to have a baby? When are you going to get married? When are you this? When are that?
Right.
Little did you know I had a miscarriage, and I cried about that several times. Little did you know that, I was with someone for 7 years that was cheating on me. I thought I would be married by now. Sometimes people ask insensitive questions. And it's not because they want to hurt you. They just don't know what you've been through, right? And so it was my responsibility to heal so that I wouldn't react that way and push those people away, and just know This person was trained to keep tabs on other people's life. At some point, they were taught that this is how you bond.
Yeah.
That's their idea of bonding, is talking about what you don't have versus encouraging you about what you do have and saying, you know, you're really great at this. You know, I wish you the best. That's enough.
That's, yeah, not for me.
Not, oh, you're really great at this. When are you going to be on TV? Are you going to try to be on TV?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to belittle what you're doing.
That actually happened in my last relationship. Like, I was getting the ground running, and I was having fun doing this podcast and so on and so forth. And it seemed like the one person that I feel would be in my corner was not, because they were supporting everybody else's endeavors. But when it came to me, they would be like, "So how are you going to start making money off this? How are you going to start making money off this?" You know, it always came back to that.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, goddamn, can't you just be happy that I'm doing something that I fucking love?
Right. And then you got to ask yourself, like, why are they pocket watching? What do you want from me? You know, are you struggling financially? So you want me to do better with my money so that I can have more to give you? Are you not mature enough to understand where I am in life, that you have the wrong expectations of me? I think that it's hard when you're in a relationship and you're getting older, right? Because you're like, well, my friends are getting married, I should be married. You know, she has a ring, I should have a ring. But when you have a relationship with someone who's a creative, who's an entrepreneur, any of those things, life is very unconventional. You don't know when everything is going to pop. You don't know when you're going to make money off certain things. But it's not always about the money.
That's exactly the point right there.
And for some people, the only thing they find value in is money. And that's why they can't understand why you get fulfillment out of something that doesn't have monetary value. They don't understand what it's doing for your soul.
Right. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, where, you know, we both wanted to do something creative with our lives. You know, you wanted to be on TV, you wanted to be a rapper, you wanted to be a singer. I wanted all those things as well at one point. And I feel like I got discouraged because everybody that knew that I had these dreams and aspirations were only thinking that I might fall flat on my face and I may not make money out of it. But why can't it be because I enjoy doing it? I'm like having a big bank account is not the reason why I'm getting into it in the first place. But I was young and naive, and I let that discouragement get to me, as I mentioned before plenty of times. But I keep on reiterating it because I feel like there's people out there that maybe listen or watch this for the first time, and they may be going through something similar like that.
Right.
Right now, we live in an interesting time now when it comes to this whole mental health aspect and talking and everything that we're doing. I gotta ask you though, what is your take on people? Because I feel like this subject has gotten so broad and so popular now that I feel like people are kind of using it as a way to justify their behavior, how they come across. So how do you feel about certain people out there that, you know, they talk about healing and having grace and showing grace, but in real life, they're just real pieces of dog shit?
So I think, and I'll tell you the truth, I came a long way from being judgmental about other people's decisions to understanding that when people say they're struggling and that they did something because their mental health was messed up, you better believe it. Because you have to be in a really bad space to make decisions that don't reflect who you want to be and hurt others. You have to be. There's no way you can be in a good space in your mind, heart, and soul and not have self-control. If you struggle with self-control, that alone is a mental health issue.
Right.
And so there are people who, yes, say, I did this because I was having a bad day. And there are people who are chronologically always going to hurt you, right? So it's not about why they do it. It's about why do you allow them to do it? Why do you allow them access? Once you learn somebody is capable of doing something malicious towards you, forgive them and keep your distance. Now, if it's somebody who genuinely has outbursts or feels some type of way, and let's say you're in a relationship with them, then you need to reevaluate that relationship and not be mad at them, but understand like this person is struggling with something. Because if they weren't, they wouldn't be acting like this. And it's so easy to say like, no, that person is just like, I think about, you know, my long-term relationship and how I had so many bitter feelings towards that person. And I was like, this person is evil and this and that. No, that person is genuinely struggling. And the only reason that I can remove myself from the situation and say, you know, I'm not a victim is because I'm able to understand that their behaviors aren't a reflection towards me. But so often we want to be like, this person is just a bad person and, you know, I'm going to let people know, or I'm going to make sure they know that I think they're a bad person. They know. Yep. And they're stuck in a cycle. They're stuck in a cycle of people see me as this is what I am, this is what I'm going to continue to be.
They play into it.
And the only thing you can do is pick and choose who you entertain, who you respond to, and how you respond. Most of the times, for me, what I found that has really, really worked for me is to truly give people grace and not tell them about themselves. Because trust me, they know about themselves. And a lot of people aren't ready to hear about themselves. It'll activate a defense mechanism that sends you straight to hell for telling them, you know? And so they say practice grace, and that means observe that you feel uncomfortable with someone's behavior, observe that you don't like what they said, and then evaluate the access that you give to that person. How much headspace, how much am I going to think about this? I gave my old job was very toxic. I gave them 2 weeks notice and they fired me that day.
Yeah.
That was triggering for me. Because it activated all the times in my life that I've done right by people and they've shitted on me. It wasn't triggering because of anything other than that. I mean, admit it, nothing crazy happened. They just said, you know what, we think it's better if you leave today. Yeah. You know, and it worked out. It was meant to work out because I ended up starting my other job sooner. I got 2 days off and everything is okay. But it's our triggers that are deeply rooted from abandonment, from rejection, that sets our whole nervous system off. And so breathing, being one with yourself, and really like being like, listen, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at the person who hit me in the face and, you know, I had to have multiple surgeries because my bone broke in my jaw. I'm not mad at that person. You know why? Because being mad at them does nothing for me.
Right.
You know, I'm grateful that I survived. I'm grateful that I was able to get through it. And I'm grateful that by that person doing that to me, I got to see who's really in my corner. Sometimes you don't know who's really your friend until shit hits the fan.
Right.
Until you have an enemy, you don't know who your friends are.
Yeah. And I'm also going to tell you something that's, I've never really told anybody about this, but this is deep and personal. And I feel like this conversation has allowed us to get out a lot of truth and vulnerability and so on and so forth. So I'm going to share something with you. And it took me a while to actually learn the lesson in this. So there was a time where I was not doing very well. And this was years ago. This is when my father was still alive. My father's been passed now for like almost 7 years. So we go to this restaurant with this family event, and I'm just not in a good headspace. It's one of those situations where I had no choice but to just leave and not tell anybody. You know, I just left. I didn't even tell anybody I was leaving. I didn't say goodbye to anybody. I just needed to get the fuck out of there because it just wasn't a good situation. So I go home, and at this time I was living with my dad, and my father calls me. He wanted to know where I was, and I told him, like, I just had to leave. I'm home now. I had to leave, though. It was like, yo, you're crazy. Why would you want to leave now? Like, you didn't even say bye to anybody. Like, just trust me, I had to leave. And then we just left it at that. I'm watching TV on the couch, just minding my own business. He comes in the door, starts yelling at me, berating me. You know what I realized about you, Jay? You're a fucking piece of shit. You're this, you're that.
I'm sorry, that's not funny.
No, it's fine. And, you know, he's kicking me out. He's kicking me out, but I also realized that while he's yelling at me, he's also in tears. So I didn't realize it at the time, but it makes me realize that something must have triggered him with abandonment issues. And the fact that I just up and left and didn't tell anybody, and I left without going home with him, that must have triggered something in him a long time ago. And I didn't realize it at the time. So the point that I'm getting at is that when I finally realized everything in hindsight, maybe that was a conversation that me and him could have had right then and there. And we could have buried the hatchet. And who knows, maybe our father-son relationship could have been a lot better. It could have healed as opposed to just, having this animosity towards each other. And the unfortunate thing is that he's no longer with us, so we never had that conversation.
Yeah. And that's a very vulnerable story that takes a lot of strength to be able to tell. And I have goosebumps right now because I can relate to what you're saying in a sense of like my mom. She always tells me like, listen, my father was always looking out for my best interests, and I didn't get to see it until he passed away because of his delivery and the way that he went about it. And I wanted to see things my way. And me and her, we strongly believe that when our loved ones pass away, there's some sort of consciousness that they share with us through the spiritual realm. And that alone brings solace and peace, because I strongly believe that when somebody that we are very close to passes away, we don't have our last conversations with them through the flesh. Those conversations are happening within our consciousness. They're downloading things into our consciousness that their physical body wasn't able to exude while they were here. And that's why each one of us, that's why Darwinism and like each generation is smarter and each generation is more advanced, they say. But it's really, to me, that your connection and someone's spirit can be so strong that you can receive those messages. You're where you needed to be to understand your relationship with your father in the past now. Right. And so that is going to come full circle, where one day you're going to feel at peace because you're going to know that he's seeing the work you did and he's proud. He may not have been able to understand your journey while he was in his physical form, but there's no ego in the spirit. There's no ego. Ego is our physical understanding of what we should be and how we should be treated and what we should do in life. But our spirit knows that we are eternal.
Right.
And so when you don't have that spirituality, it's really hard to make sense out of these non-physical things. It's why it's easy to feel like you regret that you didn't understand this sooner, but you were meant to understand it now so you could do something with it now. Your dad, I'm glad that you took this path, right? Because now you can understand that you don't, the pain that you felt of the disconnect within your relationship, right? That pain transformed you into who you needed to be, to look for support, to follow your dreams. But now you have perspective to understand that it wasn't as bad as it seemed in those moments when you guys had those fights. You were looking for closeness. You were looking for connection, but in different ways. Sometimes we don't know how to literally look somebody in the eyes and say, I want to feel connected to you in a positive way.
Right.
So I'm picking all our differences and throwing them in your face. Like, we don't realize we're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if we had those kind of conversations before, maybe the last words that I ever heard him utter was, "Sorry for bothering you." And seriously, those are the last words I ever heard him say.
And it's, I'm super emotional hearing that, because I say that so much in my relationship. Sorry for bothering you. And it's because when I was a kid, my grandparents raised me, and I always felt like a bother. I was always told, we're going to put you up for adoption if you keep misbehaving. And so we don't know what people struggle with. I'm cool with my father now. I'm cool with my mother now. But my relationship with my father was terrible because I looked at him as an adult who was supposed to be stability for me, but I only saw his inner wounded child that hurt me. And I had so much anger towards him for not being who I thought I needed him to be. He was who I needed him to be all along so I could be me today. Your dad was who he needed to be so you could be you today. Some people have the most perfect parents and they still struggle. They can't do the things that maybe you went on to do, right? So the challenges and all of that forces us to be like, this is who I am and I'm going to show up that way. Because maybe if you had everything easy, you would have been comfortable with just going to work and, you wouldn't feel like you had to prove anything. But I feel like Jason wanted to prove something. And that drove him to prove to himself and to others. And now you're doing what you love because you had that negativity breeds positivity. There's no way around it. There's so much negative crap that will force something positive to come out of it.
It's almost like you can't have black without white, You have to have this or that. Can't have one without the other.
And imagine...
Can't have success without failure.
Imagine we wouldn't even appreciate positive things if everything was so streamlined and perfect.
Right.
We would have no contrast to give that value. Like, this bottle of water has value because I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
If I was born with a natural mechanism to never be thirsty, this water would mean nothing to me. Mm-hmm. This microphone has value because it enhances the way that people hear me. If people could hear me perfectly just from us recording, this mic would have no value, right?
Right.
So like your dreams have value because for a while you didn't you didn't have the courage to pursue them or you didn't feel supported, and now you're doing it. So your dreams are even more valuable now because everything it took for you to pursue them. There's kids that are born little and their parents put them in every single class, every single sport. And they'll tell you today, by the time I was in my 20s, I was tired. I was tired of going to practice. I was tired of being pushed to go to acting class. I just wanted to be left fuck alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have the opposite. People who were abandoned and just not encouraged to do anything, that when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, they're like, I'm going to do it now. Because life is our freaking playground. Yeah. And it depends how much you play and how you play, whether you're going to enjoy it or not. So, everything has its purpose. There's no mistake that's useless. But you have to train your mind to understand that so you could really grasp everything that it's worth because it's for you. And I think that when I struggled with my mental health and I would drink and I would, because I would think I wouldn't understand that it was for me. I don't drink alcohol because I feel like it truly lowers my vibration. It lowers my ability to enjoy life and say, this is happening for me. Alcohol just puts you in a realm where you're not even yourself. But you think you are because you feel good, you're more outspoken, you feel like you're connecting with people. But what about the challenge of connecting and feeling good without alcohol?
And it's funny you mentioned that because that's why I miss smoking marijuana so much. I haven't done it in almost a decade because of my day job. But when I was partaking, when I was indulging, I felt like it brought out the best in me. I felt like, okay, with this is what's actually going to make me likable to people. Now they're going to see a side of me where, otherwise I would be closed off. I'd be shut off. I'd be a mute. I'd be a robot, where I felt like it really brought out my personality. And I felt like I couldn't go on without it because I needed this. This is my medicine to actually make me feel like I'm actually one with the universe. Like people are actually going to see a side of me and like me for who I am. And once that was kind of taken away from me, I kind of had to figure out a different route. And I don't know exactly how I did it, but I've been able to manage it and I haven't needed to smoke, even though I miss it.
Yeah. And it's because we're all looking for ways to feel better about whatever is stressing us out. It's a coping mechanism. It's a tool. And there's nothing wrong with experimenting with different tools. Sometimes you have to do things to know you don't need them or quit them to see that you can do without and be fine, right? Anything that controls you that you absolutely need has way too much power over you, right? So you may have been forced to stop smoking, but it showed you that you could stop. It showed you that you're likable without weed. It showed you
Right.
that you can talk to people even if you're not high or whatever, right?
Right.
And so like it's a big challenge to say, well, what other tools can I use to heal besides something that is actually not good for me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I mean, it's been built into us where we're taught to do things that are not good for us so that we can feel better, you know? But once you break out of that, you start realizing like, I can do yoga, I can play basketball, I can go for a walk, I can do all those very cliche things that people make fun of.
Right.
But it's because that making fun of is supposed to keep you there, stuck. Alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addiction, toxic relationships, talking shit about people, being mad, feeling like a victim. All those things go hand in hand together. Once you start taking one out, you stay committed to it. You take the other one out, you stay committed to it. You have to replace every negative thing with a positive thing. And right now you're so busy doing positive things, you don't have time to be negative sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like where I'm at too. Like I don't have time to fight with people. I don't have time to be mad. I don't have the capacity to be upset because it could affect the goodness that can come out of my day today. So every day it's like you start fresh, you put whatever happened yesterday behind, and you go, what's the best that I can do with today? Something amazing is going to happen today. It could just be that somebody lets you pass on the highway and you don't get in a freaking car accident.
Right.
You know, it could just be that you cheer somebody else on and that makes them go do something amazing. Like every day you can make it good. Even in a day like where I had a surgery that failed and it went horribly, I got to see who was there for me. I got to see how strong I am and that didn't break me. And so why would I be afraid of challenges when I know that I can overcome them? Versus that feeling of, oh my God, life is so hard. I can't believe it. This and that. That's not it. And I don't know if it's, you know, I don't know if it's the crystals. I don't know if it's all the healing, all everything, because I used to struggle really bad.
Right.
Until, you know, I wear bracelets every day. Because when I don't, sometimes I really feel like I let negativity get to me. We have energy throughout our entire spine, and that energy center gets clogged up. If you're not taking walks, meditating, if you're not shaking that shit off of you,
Right.
it's going to be inside you for a long time.
Absolutely. And I love the positivity that you've been radiating, and I really appreciate it. So let's segue into some positivity now. So we're reaching at the end of the episode right now. I can't believe it's gone by that fast. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours, but we do have some clock integrity here. I want to shout out to Marv here real quick. So let's go through this segment of that we have for this or that real quick. So we could put a nice positive spin on this episode and then we can put it in the books. All right, so are you ready, Lorri Love?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. So the way this works is basically it's called this or that. You have to choose one or the other, no leeway. It has to be one or the other, and do the best you can. All right. Playlist or podcast?
Podcast.
Taylor ham or pork roll?
Taylor ham.
Slides or Crocs?
Slides.
Beach or pool?
That's tough. Beach, as long as it's not the Jersey Shore.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs, for sure.
Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Mac or PC?
I have a Mac and I still don't know how to use it. I'm going to go with PC, for real. With PC.
Glass half empty or glass half full?
What you make with it. What do you make with it, regardless if it's half or full? I say half glass half empty, because it leaves room for me to put some shit in there.
I love that. Being embarrassed or being afraid?
Being afraid.
Being too hot or being too cold?
What am I choosing? Or like which one I like better?
Which would you prefer? Like both, like it's
I would
which of
prefer
the lesser
being hot. I
evils?
hate being cold.
Introvert or extrovert?
Mm. As much as I want to say I'm an introvert, sometimes I really am an extrovert. Like I'm really my happiest when I'm connecting with other people. So definitely extrovert.
To give or to receive?
To give.
Window seat or aisle seat?
Window all day, every day.
I'm the opposite, actually. I'm an aisle guy.
You just want to get out, right?
Well,
You don't
not
want
only
to
that,
have
but not
people.
only that, but I'm also a bigger guy physically,
You don't
so I
want to
feel like I
fit.
have more space.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Book smart or street smart?
Man, that's tough because I feel like you need both. Like I feel like you really can't even be as street smart as you think you are if you're not book smart. So I'm gonna go with book smart.
All right. Teamwork or solo project?
Teamwork.
Nikes or Adidas?
Nikes for sure. Way more comfortable.
And then finally, shopping online or in store?
Shopping online, because why is there only one cashier nowadays? Like shopping in store just sucks. Now they don't even clean the fitting rooms. Like you go in the fitting room, there's dust everywhere. You're leaving the fitting room dirtier than you went in. I just definitely shopping online.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. All right.
You
Well,
don't even
that's
get
gonna
good customer service anymore in person.
get on your soapbox and let them know. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this or that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. Thank you so much to my lovely guest, Lorri Love, for coming through here. Thank you so much. And before I will let you go, I just wanted to tell you real quick that you and I had a really deep conversation on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and I feel like it has helped me shift into a better perspective and going into a positive light where I was going through some really strong shit that was affecting me mentally and negatively in a way. And you put so much things into perspective that I can't thank you enough for that. I feel like you were a big reason into my mindset shift, and I've been in a much better headspace because of that. And I want to let you know that I thank you effortlessly and immensely for that conversation. It's something that I'm never going to forget.
Thank
I
you.
feel like I needed it more than anything at the time.
I'm just grateful that I had people who could do that for me, that reminded me how important it is to be able to do that for others. Like sometimes if you've never had someone encourage you, you don't know how to encourage other people. So,
Correct.
you know, thank you for trusting me and allowing me to be there for you, because that takes courage too. And I'm glad that whatever I said, you took it the right way, you know, and you were
Yes.
able to receive the goodness of the message. And like I'm really happy to see you in a positive light. And now you know, like you can never let somebody make you feel like you know, negative, because then you give them power, right?
Right.
You took your power back and you're just shining with it. And so you're going to continue shining with it. You're going to continue maybe having clashes with people, but I'm grateful you gave me the opportunity to connect and bond with you. And you know, I feel like from here there's only so much more that we can do because we're genuinely honest people, and that allows you to have real connection.
And I don't take it for granted one bit. All right. So where can they find you on social media real quick?
So my Instagram is at the Lorri Love Show. And I also own a business called the Blue Muses Shop. So you can follow at the Blue Muses Shop. I make handmade crystal healing bracelets. I do custom work. If you want to reach out to me and ask questions, I can guide you in the right direction. And June 14th at Hinchcliffe Stadium, Charles J. Muth Museum, I'm hosting a youth poetry night honoring history. So please come out and support. You'll see the flyer on my Instagram, and reach out if you want to collaborate on that. And thank you for having me. Thank you, Crazy Legs, for giving me my flowers and shouting me out. And thank you,
Well
Bravery,
deserved.
for opening your doors to us always. Marvin, you're awesome. And that's that.
Well deserved. Well deserved. So thank you so much, Lorri. And I hope that we could, do this again more often in the future.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at I am Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube at First Class Second Place. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you very much, Mar, for tuning in as well. This has been the First Class Second Place podcast. We out.